I'm here to tell you a story about transmuting anger, rage, frustration, transmuting it with the trees into actually balancing yourself, being in harmony with it instead of disharmony. I used to yell a lot at the dog I have, and I was particularly angry with the dog when it would bark at strangers. I live in an apartment complex, and there's always people walking back and forth, and we would walk out the door to let the dog out to go to the bathroom. But sometimes, there's a neighbor that's just doing their business walking by, and it's a smaller dog, so small dog syndrome. And she would just, sometimes not bark at some people, but sometimes bark at others. I guess that's another story, but she started barking a little bit more aggressively at one of our neighbors, and I got very flustered and embarrassed and angry at the dog. I just quickly brought the dog inside the home and started yelling at it, like saying, bad dog, that sort of language, and it felt a little bit more like rage and anger towards this dog. And I would say a few days after that incident of just yelling at my dog, I came across a transmission from Darryl Anka, a channeler of a hybrid alien called Bashar, and he was just acknowledging that there is anger here in humanity. Almost everyone or every family has someone who's displaying this emotion, and it's okay because now you can acknowledge it. That's the first step, and allowing it to come to surface and knowing that you're ready to transmute that and to shift your energy so where that won't affect you anymore. I needed to hear this, and I looked deeper into Darryl's work with him channeling Bashar, and he mentioned trees, but I had already been getting tree messages, and I just wanted to kind of solidify this concept that trees do help transmute energy, not just here in the physical, but multidimensional parallel realities as well. Another example of the anger and rage that I've had that I no longer carry with me, but an example of a situation where this might relate to families with small children. When I was going through my divorce, I found myself constantly yelling at my son for some comments he might say about the situation of our divorce. So there might be an example of, oh, I wish I was at dad's, or dad wouldn't do this, or something about his dad, and he would mention his dad's name and it would trigger me, and I would get angry at my son and say things that weren't true. I'm like, oh, well, you must not love me or something. That's why you're saying this. And it was a horrible thing for me to say. So it was kind of like I reacted in frustration towards my child for an observation that he just had about the situation. And that's okay, because I wanted to get this story out there as an example of someone being frustrated or angry with their child, kind of like, well, what's an example? So that's an example of what I used to do. But now I know that words carry so much vibrational power, and that words themselves carry an energy. Words carry the mind of our humanness into what we're speaking. So I knew that what I said, the remorse ultimately follows after you say something not so nice to even a child or whoever it is. And I knew that that was a part of me I didn't want to feel anymore. I didn't want that to be a part of my life, reacting to my children during the divorce in that way. So I know I needed to acknowledge this anger, and Darryl Anka helped me with that. But I knew that there was the trees were a big proponent of actually transmuting the energy. There's one thing you can do, acknowledge the anger, but what can you do to actually lift it up and out of you physically, mentally? How do you do it in the moment of now? How are you not reacting in an angry sort of way when you have triggers like the dog or small children or children in general? So coming to the trees and communicating with them, I realized there's different types of trees that help with different types of, I guess you could call it, challenges that we face. And one of the biggest messages is how to transmute anger for you, for someone that understand there's more to than just being here in the physical sense. The emotions feel like you can't see it, but you can feel it. So when you connect with a tree, the tree can help you actually feel it, and you can actually identify it, and it starts to shift and like vibrationally transform into a different energy, because you're acknowledging it, you're asking the tree for help, you're acknowledging the tree can help you transmute this. So it's one of those permission slips that Darryl talks about. We're using the tree as a permission slip to tap into the moment of harmony that the tree has within itself. And the tree is just eager and very excited to help us in this process of transmuting lower energies. So with this tree right behind me, I'm sitting down, and this Ponderosa Pine that I'm up against was showing me earlier 2 tuning forks up on my shoulders. So the pine trees in particular are tuning you into the frequency of harmony, of balance, and that feels amazing. You can feel it all throughout your body when you sit down next to a tree and you close your eyes. Not only did it show me tuning forks on my body, but it also showed me kind of this really intense light, like a beam, but it's being kind of enraptured with a coil that's red, representing the anger and frustration, or the lower energy, so to speak. And when you're with a tree and you acknowledge your own anger and your own frustrations, and the moment it's happening, you start to break it apart. Like energetically, you will break apart your anger. I'm not saying that magically it's going away. No, you have to acknowledge your anger first, and it's going to start to break it energetically speaking when you've been connecting with the trees and harmonizing with that energy. Then that happens for you. So you connect with the trees. You feel the energy of the tree, because you have that same energy already there. You're just shifting to harmony with the tree. When you go home, and let's say you have another trigger, a pet or a family member or a child, whatever it is that triggers you, in your mind, you're going to start to acknowledge it now that you've felt harmony and balance. Acknowledge it in your mind and give yourself grace that you're acknowledging the anger, and that you know it's starting to transform. It's no longer going to hold the same grip on you anymore. Connect with a tree daily, weekly, monthly, however long or how many times you can connect to the tree, the better you're going to acknowledge and see the transformation within yourself for the reactions you might have had prior. So let's give the example of me getting angry with the dog. I know I didn't want to be angry at the dog anymore, but I still was kind of like there yelling at the dog. But once I acknowledged it, it started to definitely lose its grip. And with the tree's help, eventually, when that same situation would happen, the dog starts barking. I'm like, okay, yeah, dogs bark. There's obviously reasons why they bark. Maybe they want to play with that person, but that person's walking away. Maybe that person also has low energy that the dog's barking at. I don't know why dogs bark, but we all know they do. So I just acknowledge the dog for what it is, and myself, and accept myself for what had happened before. And you can start to release even the worry of having that in the past. You don't need to worry about it anymore, because the trees are helping you transmute the energy, and I'm here to show you that. So I'm definitely giving a big shout out to Darryl and Bashar as a thank you for kind of encouraging people to acknowledge their rage and anger. And it's definitely a game changer. It's helped me so much. You can ask my husband. We'll have another YouTube show. But ask my wife. This is the channel you're looking at right now. If you liked this message, please hit the like and the subscribe, or at least drop me a comment and we can answer some of your questions and get another message from these beautiful trees. And I mentioned before, this is a Ponderosa Pine, so if you can find a pine tree, especially the ones with the pine cones and the sap coming out of it, they seem to have more of a knowing of how to help transmute your energy, and so you can acknowledge it within yourself. And there's more to come. I want to talk about oak trees next, but there's a special part about oak trees that are a little bit different than pine trees for transmuting energy. So connect to a tree. Again, it's going to open your heart. You're going to transmute the anger that's been in your life since you can even remember. And by connecting to the trees, you're going to realize that the anger that you're going to acknowledge and eventually transmute is going to help all the realities that you've experienced. It's going to help, dimensionally speaking, the anger that's been here in this life form. Not just the life form here, but how we're connected to the cosmos and everything. So I truly urge you to go find a tree if you resonate with this message. It's okay that you're frustrated. It's okay that you're angry. We want to acknowledge it first and start transmuting your energy with the trees. Thank you for watching.